Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, May 10th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Millions of Californians may be getting another round of rebates as high as $1,100. The payments are part of what Governor Newsom is calling a $100 billion plan to drive the state's economic recovery. KPBS reporter Melissa May breaks down the details.
Governor Newsom says the state has a nearly $76 billion surplus in its operating budget, thanks to the taxes paid by wealthy Californians who did well during the pandemic. So, he wants to send billions back to taxpayers, starting with a proposed $600 payment to those earning up to $75,000. He calls it the California Comeback Plan, $100 billion to boost the state's economy.
$12 billion tax rebate to the people of the state of California earning up to $75,000. Let me put that in perspective. That tax rebate will impact just shy of 80% of all tax filers will get a direct stimulus check.
The governor's office says that $600 is for those who did not receive a first payment. His plan also calls for an additional $500 to qualified families with dependents and undocumented families.
We believe people are better suited than we are to make determinations for themselves of how best to use these dollars, and that's why we want to get money into people's pockets as quickly as possible.
Along with the stimulus, Newsom is proposing a $5.2 billion plan to help with rent relief.
To double the rental assistance in the state of California with the goal of getting 100% of all the back rent paid and provide 100% support over the next few months to renters.
Andy is calling for $2 billion of direct relief to pay down water, gas, and electric bills. Newsom plans to roll out more details of his plan throughout the week, ahead of releasing his revised state budget on Friday. All of these proposals will have to be approved by the state legislature. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Today, the FDA cleared the way for children as young as 12 to get Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. Shots can begin once a federal vaccine panel issues recommendations. Right now, they're available to teens age 16 and up. As KPBS reporter Alexander Rangel shows us, vaccination clinics are popping up at local high schools.
Yeah, it was just to not have worries anymore for whenever I go out. If I ever go out, to not have it bringing into the household.
Grateful to receive his first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, Rolando Verduzco, a junior at Hoover High, says the pandemic has been a stressful time for his family.
It's very scary, or very something frightening for my family, since they one has health issues.
He was one of dozens of Hoover High students who lined up after class to receive the coronavirus vaccine at the school's auditorium. The school district partnered with UC San Diego Health and Sharp Healthcare to host the clinic. It's part of the district's efforts with the county to bring the vaccine to underserved neighborhoods with low vaccine rates.
A lot of people can say, oh, it's been really easy to get a vaccine, just go to this clinic or go to that clinic. And it's, unfortunately, reality, it's not that easy for everybody.
Lack of transportation, money, and mistrust are just some of the barriers Hoover High Principal Jason Babineau says his students are facing.
To be able to try to tear those barriers down is something that was necessary in City Heights in particular, to make sure that everybody that wants a vaccine is able to get it.
Students at Monday's clinic received the Pfizer vaccine. Nurse Candice Geyer at Hoover High says vaccine supply is not an issue at the moment.
The Pfizer vaccine is given in 2 doses, 21 days apart. The site will be here Monday and Tuesday, today and tomorrow, 8:30 to 4. At the time you receive your first dose, the appointment for the second will be made.
The vaccine clinics are also being held at other high schools this week, like Lincoln, Crawford, and Morse. The vaccine is free and walk-ins are welcome for anyone in the community ages 16 and over. Babineau says the school has been working to educate students and their families about the safety of the vaccine. They're hoping kids will be encouraged to get the vaccine in an environment they feel safe in. As the county continues efforts to vaccinate the population, vaccine rates with the younger generation remain low. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Despite a dip in vaccinations, COVID-19 cases in the U.S. are dropping. As Mandy Gaither reports, that has many renewing calls for the CDC to loosen restrictions for the fully vaccinated.
When it comes to the pandemic, it's all about the numbers. One set bringing hope. In the U.S., not a single state is reporting an increase in COVID-19 cases the past week compared to the week before. A majority of states, 33 of them, reporting a decrease in cases.
I think everyone is tired, and wearing a mask it can be a pain. But we're getting there, and the light at the end of the tunnel is brighter and brighter.
Another set of numbers bringing concern. Over the weekend, the 7-day average of vaccine doses administered per day dipped below 2 million for the first time since the beginning of March. Several states no longer ordering their full allocation of doses as demand drops.
It's not an access issue anymore. Now it's a personal health decision for people that have some degree of nervousness.
Some experts worry vaccine hesitancy could contribute to a potential surge in cases later in the year, renewing calls to loosen restrictions for the fully vaccinated.
We do need to start being more liberal as we get more people vaccinated. As you get more people vaccinated, the number of cases per day will absolutely go down.
The latest CDC numbers show roughly 58% of U.S. adults have received at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose, and more than 34% of Americans are fully vaccinated. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
A reminder, we are tracking the county's COVID-19 vaccinations online. If you want to set up an appointment for yourself or for an eligible family member, you can find a location close to you at kpbs.org. Just click on the vaccines link on our homepage. President Joe Biden is entering a crucial time frame for his legislative agenda, and the path to get deals done with Congress needs to include both Republicans and Democrats. Isabel Rosales is in Washington with the push toward bipartisanship.
President Joe Biden pitching his infrastructure plan as a way to get more Americans back to work.
To make sure working people of this country get to share in the benefits of a rising economy.
On the table, a more than $2 trillion proposal. But Republicans say Biden's plan is just too big.
If we can find something that actually spends money on infrastructure, roads and bridges, imagine that, as opposed to what the Biden plan does, which is spends $1 trillion on things which have no relationship to infrastructure, we can cut a deal.
Republicans offered a counterproposal limiting the size of the plan and slashing the costs.
The proper price tag for what most of us think of as infrastructure is about $600 to $800 billion.
To find middle ground, the president is meeting with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, a moderate Democrat who says he will not vote with his party unless Republicans are involved in the process.
Why can't we try to make this work?
In order to work toward a compromise, President Biden will host his first White House meeting with leaders from both parties and both houses of Congress on Wednesday. The next day, he'll meet just with GOP senators.
We're open to talk about infrastructure and how to pay for it.
The White House hoping for progress by Memorial Day, but progressives want to move forward as soon as possible.
If Republicans want to come on board seriously, great. If not, we're going to do it alone.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
A Mount Helix neighborhood will not be the next home for a man deemed to be a sexually violent predator. A San Diego Superior Court judge is rejecting a proposal to place Merle Wakefield into a home on Horizon Hills Drive. The judge says the location is too densely populated and close to children. Wakefield, who is 64, was determined to have a mental condition that makes him likely to re-offend. State health officials are now calling the cyber attack at Scripps Health a case of ransomware, meaning hackers are holding information in exchange for a payment. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman spoke with a soon-to-be mother who is having her treatment interrupted.
The fallout from the ongoing ransomware attack at Scripps Health is continuing.
It's not even that I'm getting bad health care, it's I'm not getting any.
It's been about 10 days, and while hospitals are still open, some patients like Abby Reed, who is 11 weeks pregnant, are having their care delayed.
A lot of people are asking us about this pregnancy, and we don't have any information to tell them how we're doing. I don't know.
After recently getting her first ultrasound, Reed was referred to a specialist for her 10-week blood work, but was told last week that was not happening.
For our unborn baby to find out if everything is okay, and we're not able to get any of those labs done.
Reed ended up going to a Scripps urgent care center, but was told the blood work could not be done there. Now she's being told to wait for her 12-week appointment, but she's been dropping weight and is worried.
If there was something wrong with the kid right now, we should be allowed to know based on the testing that we were supposed to have.
Reed and some other patients feel like there's been a lack of communication about rescheduling lost appointments for critical care.
This attack could be, extremely far-reaching inside their network.
University of San Diego cybersecurity professor Mark Heckman says with systems still down, Scripps officials could be trying to pin down exactly how security was breached.
And that's very difficult to do while you're in the middle of the analysis. So it's not surprising to me that they haven't released more information because they're still trying to figure it out.
Heckman says officials are likely having to go computer by computer, even checking some health equipment to get rid of the malware.
Before you can restore the systems, you have to figure out exactly what happened, exactly how the attack happened, to make sure it doesn't happen again immediately after you bring the systems up.
And there's no telling how long that could take. Scripps patients like Reed say if this goes on for more than another week or so, she doesn't know what she'll do.
We are going to probably have to switch my health insurance to a different provider to be able to get a new OBGYN to be able to get health care.
San Diego County health officials say the situation with Scripps is fluid, and over the weekend, some patients were diverted from their hospitals while others were not. A UC San Diego health spokesperson said they are still seeing elevated numbers of patients in their emergency rooms and are now caring for some Scripps patients, including those who need critical cancer treatments. Scripps officials say they are not able to provide additional details about the attack as to not compromise the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The U.S. is bracing for another potential jump in gas prices following a massive cyber attack on the nation's largest fuel pipeline. As Stacey Cohen reports, a criminal group from Russia is believed to be responsible.
A massive cybersecurity attack could spike gas prices just as Americans hit the road for spring and summer travel. On Friday, one of America's largest pipelines was forced to shut down after a ransomware attack launched by what is believed to be a criminal group based in Russia, according to one former senior cybersecurity official.
Thus far, Colonial has told us that it has not suffered damage and can be brought back online relatively quickly, but that safety is a priority.
Much of Colonial Pipeline's system remains offline. A cybersecurity expert warns these attacks are an increasing threat not just for the global economy, but for global security as well.
The real question is how can we be more responsive and more resilient in the face of those attacks so that the consequence doesn't impact our daily lives.
Colonial Pipeline transports nearly half of all fuel on the East Coast. The attack comes as the Biden administration is finalizing an executive order to improve the federal response to cyber attacks.
The Department of Energy is working directly with Colonial to get the pipelines back online and operating at full capacity as quickly and safely as possible.
The pipeline shutdown means gas prices may continue to rise. National averages are already nearly $3 a gallon, according to AAA, and experts warn your summer road trip may get more expensive if the pipeline shutdown persists. In Washington, Stacey Cohen, KPBS News.
And here in San Diego, the average gas price is $4.12 a gallon. That's $1.33 higher than it was a year ago during the stay-at-home order. The rising prices come amid increasing demand and as the costs of crude oil and ethanol also rise. A ribbon cutting for a green project in the South Bay today. New electric vehicle chargers are now ready to use at Imperial Beach Sports Park. These are the first EV chargers installed under SDG&E's Power Your Drive for Schools, Parks and Beaches program. The goal is to install 336 chargers at 52 sites across the county, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution.
We put in green infrastructure that reduces emissions, we create great union jobs, and we make sure that our kids and our families have access to awesome Parks and Rec like in IB. So we get the triple win, and that's how we're starting the Green New Deal right here in IB.
SDG&E is working to expand the EV charging network in the region to support the transition to zero-emission transportation. UC San Diego researchers have spelled out the math that explains how pelicans can fly for miles along the coast while barely flapping their wings. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the information has implications for understanding the warming climate.
The top of the bluff just south of the Torrey Pines Golf Course is a special place for those looking to take a leap off a cliff to fly.
Inland it heats up and all that cool ocean breeze goes east. And that's what creates some magic here for us soaring as paragliding pilots, and even the birds. Sometimes we'll sit around and wait for the birds to come out and fly to see exactly how good it is.
The grassy field here is a launching pad for hang gliders and model planes, anything that can ride a stiff ocean breeze that's climbing the cliff face.
And it's classic. Everybody's seen a bird just kind of circling up in a lift, and that's typically what we do when we're flying.
And while the paragliders take their cues from birds climbing high above the cliffs, pelicans are using some of the same techniques to gracefully glide along the breaking waves. The pelicans caught the eye of UC San Diego doctoral student Ian Stokes when he used to surf near Santa Barbara. He noticed how the birds use the wind created by the waves.
So here the wave breaks, and they send it up to higher elevation, and then they're able to soar back down to the next crest. And there they go.
So now they're coming off the wave and they're tracking in.
Right, so they're all banking back up, getting off the back, and then they're swooping into the next wave, and then you see them take off again, and they start their ride once again.
Pelicans take advantage of the same forces at play along the glider port cliff. There, surface wind hits the cliffs and goes up. That creates ideal conditions for paragliders. On the ocean, waves act like the cliff, and they move air up as they roll toward the shore.
Here comes another shoaling wave, wave breaks, and then they come up and out the back.
The pelican's flight highlights a delicate interplay between the ocean and the atmosphere.
That exchange of energy between the ocean and the atmosphere is a very prominent driving force in the way that our climate responds to different environmental signals.
Scripps Oceanography has a long history of research around the idea of ocean waves and the atmosphere interacting.
UC San Diego engineer Drew Lucas worked with Stokes to refine an algorithm that explains the physics of how that system works.
An equation that relates the form of the ocean wave, its speed, its size, and its length, which we call its period or wavelength, to the amount of wind that is created in the atmosphere. And it's an equation.
Lucas says the birds tap into this interplay. They harness the energy created when the waves rise and then crest near the shore. He says the ocean and atmosphere are coupled systems that researchers have been studying for years.
We're engaged in the business of trying to predict the future of the Earth's climate and the ocean and atmosphere system. And those are problems related to how the ocean and atmosphere are communicating information, energy, and properties.
Lucas says understanding even small mechanisms like the interplay between wind and water helps scientists understand more about the planet. It could also provide input into what might be happening as the oceans and the climate change. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A long-term study of some of the world's richest rainforest habitats finds that diversity on many levels is the key to their survival. UC San Diego evolutionary biologist Chris Wills was on the team of 49 researchers who reviewed decades worth of observational data at 16 rainforest locations. The professor emeritus says having a wide variety of plants, animals, and microbes is precisely what makes the ecosystems healthy.
If we can use some of these data to get an idea of just what is absolutely essential and what has to be preserved, my hunch is that we'll discover an awful lot of it has to be preserved if we're going to keep an ecosystem so that it will stay a pretty healthy ecosystem.
Use a detailed computational tool to compile the information from the historical data. It could lead to a better understanding of how these complex ecosystems work.
Woke up to some foggy, cloudy conditions earlier this morning, and that's what we're going to deal with over the next couple of days. But at least we'll have plenty of afternoon sunshine to look forward to, and of course, the warmth. Temperatures tonight dropping off into the low 60s with, again, the low-hanging cloud cover. So do expect another foggy morning as you're waking up tomorrow. Temperatures mid-50s Oceanside for tonight. Escondido getting down to 53 degrees. Ramona upper 40s, and some milder temperatures up into some of the mountains and higher terrain. So moving through the overnight period, you can see some of those clouds starting to build back in. The fog is with us here as we're waking up early on Tuesday morning, but it will clear as we head into the afternoon hours. A mostly sunny afternoon for your Tuesday here, as we're going to get this jet stream that's actually going to be lifting off to the east, which means we'll see a return to some of those warmer temperatures in the forecast. So for your highs on your Tuesday, upper 60s in Oceanside, upper 60s in San Diego and Chula Vista, where again, temperatures are just a little bit cooler than what we were used to, but it's a little bit warmer further inland with some 70s and 80s on the board. And by Wednesday, again, it gets even warmer through much of the Golden State, and it looks like temperatures are only going to continue to rise here during the rest of the work week. For you at the coast, we're talking highs in the upper 60s today, but low 70s Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before we take a dip back down to the upper 60s by Saturday. Further inland, much of the same story, just a little bit warmer, mid to upper 70s for most of the work week, with a little bit of a cool off as we head into the weekend. By Saturday, temperatures are back down into the low 70s. In the mountains, mid 60s for you for today, upper 60s for your Wednesday, and then slowly cooling off Thursday and Friday. By Saturday, we are back down into just the upper 50s. And then looking ahead to the desert, it's going to stay nice and toasty here all week through the work week in the upper 90s, and then a cool off as we head into the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour Flashpoint, rocket attacks and airstrikes between Hamas and Israel escalate. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Even the oldest standing structure in downtown San Diego is not immune to the pandemic's devastations. KPBS reporter Melissa May explains the trouble facing the historic heart of the Gaslamp district.
Since March 2020, the only activity the Gaslamp Museum at the Davis Horton House has seen is from the resident spirits that call this place home. Now in financial distress, the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Foundation has started a GoFundMe page to keep this historical building open.
To lose it will be just heartbreaking for all of us.
Rhiannon Luna, the executive director at the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Foundation, reflects on the past year.
We've had a really rough year, like a lot of people. And so we're raising funds and raising awareness that the museum is in financial difficulties, and we may go away at the end of June unless we are able to raise some extra funds.
Due to the pandemic restrictions, the foundation's normal revenue from tours and lectures disappeared, and their biggest fundraiser of the year was canceled twice.
Shamrock Block Party downtown every year.
That brought a lot of people downtown, not for the history or anything, but you know, it's a big party.
Built in 1850, the Davis Horton House marked the beginning of what is now the Gaslamp District.
This is really the centerpiece of the historic district, because without us, we wouldn't have a historic district.
Along with the history of the house itself, the Gaslamp Museum covers the history of 16.5 blocks of the Gaslamp Historical District. Sandy Wilhoit is the lead tour guide and historian for the Gaslamp Quarter Historical Society. She knows the importance of several buildings on Fifth Avenue, but the Little Yellow Salt Box Museum
is the most important.
The Davis Horton House originally served the military.
It was home for officers, Army of the Pacific. San Diego was originally just like a little blip where they stopped to refuel, but they did have the Army presence here, and they lived in this house, the officers.
The house is named after William Heath Davis, its first resident, as well as Alonzo Horton, known as the father of San Diego. It then became
the first county hospital. And a German immigrant lady named Anna Shepper, single mother, opened this up, and she charged $1 a day per patient.
Eventually, the house was donated to the city to become a museum. After 4 years of renovations, the Davis Horton House opened to the public.
You can come inside and take a look and see, the history of San Diego kind of play out within these rooms is really special, and there's not anything else like it in San Diego.
Get up and close and personal with the artifacts. Don't touch them, but you can get right up there and look at them.
If the museum did close,
the building itself would return to the city. The collections would have to be dispersed to other institutions and to their original donors, which would be very sad to lose this collection, especially some of it is historic to the house itself, and for that to leave, you'd never get this museum back again.
The museum staff and volunteers say closure would also mean uncertainty for the house's permanent residents. Charlotte Perry says she knows the house is haunted.
Well, we would hate to lose those ghosts, too. They'd have to move someplace else. And where would they go?
They don't mind if you, listen, photograph. They don't care. They think it's nice to have company. And they would be very lonesome, too.
The Gaslamp Historical District closing the doors to its most historical building would be a significant loss to downtown San Diego. The museum is now open Fridays and Saturdays for self-guided tours. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.